Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. Once again, thank you, Diana, for such great intro. I'm laughing when I hear friends immediately. Just give me, please, a sec to share the screen, and we can start. Okay. You should be able to see my screen already, just in case.
Yes. Yes.
Okie dokie.
Everything works.
Alrighty. Perfect. I guess I heard there it's good to start from a big number when you're doing a presentation. So 400,020. Any guesses what it might be? You can like write in the chat as well. Is it like what it can be? I will give you like 15, maybe 20 seconds to answer. Any ideas?
We have
Users,
users,
clients.
clients, yes.
I would say it's pretty close, but not necessarily colleagues. Okay, I'm still on this view. Okay, any other guesses? Mistakes. Oh, sometimes, very often, but unfortunately not this time. Maybe at some point, unfortunately. So I will. I won't be like keeping this to myself anymore. Basically, in 2024, there was a huge meta-analysis on listening in general, and this number stands for the workplaces that have been observed and checked throughout this research. If you are interested, you can like scan the QR code. I hope it worked. I checked that yesterday, but you never know. You know how it's like on production issues. To download the full report. But in general, this meta-analysis was checking how being listened to affects the way how people think, how do they feel, how they connect with each other, and eventually how do they perform. Uh, at the same time, I dare to say that compared to other skills that we need to develop, even like from younger years, like writing, walking, speaking, etc., we are not necessarily trained in listening, even though it affects so many factors, as you can check throughout this research. So, as it was already mentioned, today we're gonna learn a bit on active listening in general, but let's go simply directly to the meat and a bit of theory, because like every learning has to start from something to know or to be aware of what we are actually want to learn about. So first things first, how to define active listening. This term, like active listening term, first time was used in 1957 by two psychologists, Carl Rogers and Richard Farson. You can look for those guys even like and read about them even on the Wikipedia. And throughout the years, the term itself was evaluating into various definitions, theoretical models, and it was like evolving according to the time. But if you want to like grab the essence of those definitions that exist currently, I would describe active listening as a sort of a funnel that contains three stages. The first one is to comprehend. Comprehend means simply to understand what's being said by the person, the message giver. Then we have another level that is retaining, which stands for absorbing the message, memorizing what has been communicated. And eventually we have responding, that should ideally show what the speaker has said, our understanding of what has been said. So as you can imagine, on this like levels, there are many things that can happen. So let's dive deeper maybe into those three stages. Comprehension usually takes place a bit unconsciously. You are like sitting even right now during the webinar and simply listening to what's being communicated, what's being said. It is called that the comprehension, this moment of understanding, is a sort of a combination of two types of processes, top-down and bottom-up. Top-down processes you can imagine similar to this funnel. So you usually have some knowledge about the topic already, and you are like extending the building the Lego house. You can think about it like that. And bottom up usually means that you have no knowledge about the topic, and you need to build this bridge of tower of bricks based on that. But even from the very first step, we can have issues that can stand in a way of properly comprehending what has been communicated. It can be something related to cultural differences. Cultural differences can be a totally different, and separate topic for a presentation, webinar, etc. But in general, there was a guy called man called Hofstede. He was also very interested in how cultures differ among each other. So he created sort of a center and indicated a bunch of factors that each country can be assigned into. So you can have countries that are more masculine versus feminine, more collective versus individual, and they are on the specific measurement, how it's called, indicators, and taking two different countries, you can compare them and then check how do they communicate, how they behave in social life and those kind of stuff. It all also affects how they understand the message when communicating with each other. Things that's very related to cultural differences is language. I'm not a native English speaker, so what I understand by someone else can be affected by my missing vocabulary or some, I don't know, the experience that I have within the topic, what type of technical language is used, etc. And last but not least, things that affect comprehension level are differences between individuals. And here I mean not necessarily only those cultural related stuff, but simply different in personalities that you can indicate by simple personality types like this: green, yellow, red, etc. It all also affects how you are communicate, ergo how do you listen to, because communication starts from listening, in short words. Next on the way, on the funnel, is retaining. And similarly as before, we can have a bunch of stuff that can happen on this stage per se. For example, when you have two persons standing in the front of the professor, or you have a senior and new joiner to the company or new joiner within the topic, they may understand the same sentence in totally different way based on what kind of experience do they have, etc. Also, this level also can be affected by some issues in general, saying. For example, it can be something related to memory, based on your age or your illnesses like amnesia and etc. You can stay distracted, even from this comprehension moment through retaining. If you are vulnerable, let's say, when it comes to distractions, it's harder for you to remember what has been communicated. And at the very end, we have cognitive biases. So in short words, the way we perceive the reality. I will pause on that and be back on that a bit later. because spoiler alert, it also affects the next step. And when it comes to responding, usually it should ideally represent what has been, what we understand that has been said. But it's not always happen because, ideally communicated, like combined with nonverbal communication, but at the same time, we have something called conversational narcissism. I believe at least once in our lives, I also dare to say that we met someone that tends to grab the conversation or hijack the conversation to just speak about themselves. So it's easy to actually share fully what do we meant, even like in the professional careers, and also cognitive biases that I have mentioned. And to let you know a bit more about cognitive biases in general, as I mentioned, those are like ways of perceiving the reality in irrational, meaning like subjective way. I know that you cannot read the screen, and that actually is on purpose. This is just only to show you how many cognitive biases we have. If I remember correctly, currently there is around 180 cognitive biases defined. And in short words, they can be divided into four sections. First one, too much information, meaning biases related to obstacles that if you have too much information, too many pieces of information to choose from, you tend to simplify your decisions by like skipping some parts intentionally. On the other hand, we have biases that are related to not enough meaning. What does it mean? Simply, if you don't have enough information to make a decision, you need to fill out the gaps with assumptions, with some things that you think that are enough to make this decision. Also, you can have some biases related to the need of acting fast, which means that if you are under pressure simply, or you need to make a decision quickly, you also can be a bit picky on what to do, and you can skip the rest of the context. And last but not least, what should we remember? Again, if you need to choose what to memorize, this is also very related to this comprehend section, you tend to overlook those pieces of information that are not relevant for you. So, for example, when you are a newbie in one of the topics, at some point it's easier for you to memorize stuff instead of because you are like because you are a newbie, sorry. But yeah, that's also a tricky part. I just like lost the word that I wanted to share. So I'm not going to explain all cognitive biases that we may have, but I just wanted to show you some of them, my personally favorite ones, that also affect active listening in general. So this Dunning-Kruger effect, this is a nice example of not enough meaning for biases. So in short words, the fewer expertise people have, the more they overestimate how good they are at something. So it can be also a good example of a newbie in one particular topic. We feel great when, I guess, like whoever you is writing code, when we remember our first hello world or passing pipeline, until the moment that we have like the very first also issues with debugging or some authorization, etc., until we realize that actually this is a part. So I guess that meaning that bias affects basically all stages on active listening, depending on how well you are trained with the particular topic. Another one is status quo bias that relates to this codex area for a part that you need to act fast. So if you need to make a quick decision, you simplify your choice because choosing the familiar option is safer, it's simpler. People rather don't like risky stuff, unknown things or challenges. We all encourage or are encouraged to go out of the comfort zone, but it's sometimes harder than it looks like. Another nice example is the confirmation bias, also from too much information on the other hand. So, for example, we tend to notice things or put a focus on things that actually can additionally confirm, as it said, our existing beliefs, and we tend to overlook the other facts. So we prefer to be right, not necessarily to look objectively at the truth. So it's kind of risky, especially when it comes to some theories, but yeah, it can lead to very often to very dangerous discussions. So maybe let's go to another one. And the last thing that stays in what we should remember section is selective perception. So we actually again tend to remember this time information that actually confirms or aligns somehow with our interests of expectations. So I guess a nice example can be that there is a stereotype that BMW drivers, no offense to anyone that has a BMW, they don't use blinkers when turning left, right, whatever. So if we are believe in that, we actually tend to notice that, okay, this is a BMW and they don't use blinkers at all. But at the same time, when we notice the BMW that actually uses driver that actually uses the blinkers properly, we may forget or skip this because our perception is picky when it comes to what we are actually noticing in general. So those are only the examples. There are many, many, many more. There are only few of cognitive biases that can have a positive effect on human in general. But to be honest, I don't remember which one, but I highly encourage you to explore the topic. I think this is also a very nice book of Daniel Kaufman, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the English translation. It's called in Poland Pułapki myślenia. So maybe, Diana, you can look through this and put the name of the book. This is also a nice example of how our brain and how complex actually device it is. And I also highly encourage you to explore the topic. But we discussed what the active listening is. We discussed what actually can break or interrupt us in listening actively. But what are the techniques? How to listen actively? What's the practical output out of listening in general? So first things first, there are some techniques and I'm gonna share them with you. Keep an eye contact with a speaker, and maybe not necessarily in that way as you can see in the GIF, but keeping the eye contact helps you with staying focused on the person and on the speaker in general. You are able to notice their body language, their behavior, their face, whether feelings, what kind of feelings they are showing. And also it helps you with staying focused on the topic. Imagine you are, I don't know, a person that has to conduct an interview. If you are keeping an eye contact with a person that is actually being interviewed, you may notice whether they are stressed, or they are like don't care at all what's going on, or what stands behind the words that they are speaking. And I guess this technique is specifically useful, kind of be tricky, but useful during online meetings. We very often don't use cameras on our meetings. I personally prefer to do it because I like to have this feeling that I'm talking with a real person. So the same thing goes when you either you have the screen in front of you or you are on this one-to-one, face-to-face meeting. So this is the first technique. Another one can be paraphrasing. For me personally, this is a very useful technique because it helps building the bridge between between me and the person that is actually like talking right now, but also it really nicely helps with confirming whether my understanding was correct. So if I, before responding and before replying fully, I use the paraphrase and try to confirm what the person has been saying with another words, first I will remember that because I need to force myself to use those words and somehow how to I forgot the English word for that, but it's more like plastic. You need to like somehow force yourself to damn it, sorry for English. Anyway, it like let's say it helps you with staying focused and building this bridge. Another thing, it's nice when you are not fully oriented within the topic. So if something is new for you, it helps you also with learning about the stuff that you are going to talk about. I guess that there's a nice phrase in the also in the internet. I don't remember who have said that, but you can be a great specialist, but if you are able to paraphrase something and explain like to 5-year-old, that means you are a real specialist. So paraphrasing simply helps you out with that. And another thing is mirroring feelings. This is a bit tricky, but as I mentioned before, the body language of the speaker also like accompanies the message that they are like sharing and providing. So if you are trying to mirror those feelings, it can be also useful, for example, during the interviews, because you can keep and helps the person stay calm and notice how do they behave. But imagine, for example, that you are, I don't know, a leader or manager, and there is a colleague or someone who reports to you is coming and telling you, okay, I need to do a vent on another, like maybe not another person, but on the situation. There is a problem with ABCD topic. If you are a leader that stays without like any feelings on your face, you can be seen as someone that doesn't care or don't want to be involved in helping to the person. It actually can block very easily the transparency and the courage of person to staying open. On the other hand, when they need to do the, maybe not the other hand, but like as a follow-up of that, if they need to do event and like just to take a breath and share what's going on, and this is something bad, if you start, for example, laughing out of the tough situation, you would lose the trust to of that person. So I guess it's something that is very often underestimated, this technique, like mirroring feelings and like taking look, or combination of those three, but very often can be more harmful that we actually can say at the first glance. Another thing that can help you with training yourself in active listening is asking open questions. And you can use why. We have nice technique, which is 5 whys, which leads you to diving deeper into the topic and helps you investigating what went wrong, especially in, I don't know, root cause analysis and those kind of stuff. But there is always a but. Asking questions in such direct way like here can be tricky as well. Depending on the culture that you are coming from, or depending on your personality type and the way that you are actually communicating with each other, with other people, asking just why did you do this or why did you do that may be perceived as something quite offensive, I would say. Instead of, for example, I don't know, what makes you think or what stands behind. You can use similar phrases, but the tone of them usually is softer and again encourages another person, encourages speaker to be more like open, transparent, and honest with their feelings. A nice example when opening questions and being like too direct in them is code review, I would say. If you do the code review, which is not about like talking in general, but communicating and like sort of assumption, even in writing, if you ask directly, like, why did you use this solution? Doesn't make sense. It's a bit too direct at some point, I would say, depending on how another person is experienced. So it's good to be aware of that. For example, when you need to be a buddy for junior colleagues. Also, I talked a while and mentioned it few times that body language in general really matters, and not only as like Shakira does. But imagine that again, I'm currently like talking to you and trying to show you what do I think. I like doing some gestures, looking just to get my thought. It helps me with staying focused and be more descriptive. But the way that you actually listen to the person, like assuming that you are standing like some one-to-one, and whether you are sitting like this or just like on the cross to the table, it also can blur a bit what you can understand out of the communication. Apart from that, I guess this is not enough said because when we have any like voting in the country, or you look at the politicians, they very often they are trained on how to use the gestures when they are speaking, whether to like use this with fingers or being like more open, how to show stuff with their hands. But the way that listener actually behaves and how do they sit also has a huge tone and huge weight on the communication like process in general. And last but not least, but I would say, at least for me personally, the hardest part is withholding judgment, especially in a conflict situation or some tough situation. We know that we should not judge, we should always assume the best. And that's the one thing that it's good to remember about that. But it's harder than we think when we are in the middle of the fight or you are highly disagree with what someone is saying. Your body language can show whether you agree or whether you are judgmental or not. But also, if you are biased, actually by your own judgmental, you automatically start to prepare the reply. So you won't be able to fully focus on what the speaker has said. So I guess this is a very subtle moment that it's quite easy to miss when there is like full of emotions, like lots of going on, and you just want to reply because you disagree with someone that much. So I would suggest withholding judgment. Simply, if you don't agree with someone, first assume the best and then try to clarify it, what the person has meant by asking opening questions or by paraphrasing, or like try to read and mirror the feelings that they are sharing with you. I know that those techniques at some point, and for some of us, even like for me when I was doing the presentation and like trying to be more aware of active listening, they sound at the same time obvious and a bit like, okay, but what should I do? Like sit in the front of the person with a checklist, whether I have like used all techniques of active listening. This is all tricky, but what I realized, like the more practice you put into active listening in general, the more natural it will become for you. You don't need to like use all techniques at once. You may start with, okay, I need to put more attention or on my body language, or I need to change a bit the way I ask clarifying questions because they are like, I don't know, too direct, and I put the assumption into it. And just pick one and try to develop it according to your skills, preferences, need, and so on. And here, this also a bonus, maybe for later. Maybe it's a for YouTube scene when you can very like a bit overreacted, of course, but it's a nice example of mirroring feelings. That's tough. Of body language and of judgment that went a bit wrong, but yeah, you can check out it later, although I should have probably put it later, not in the middle of the presentation. But okay, we have tons of techniques, we have a bunch of information what to do, but what are the benefits? What we are actually take from being an active listener in general? Well, I was trying to provide a bit more concrete examples than just generic, it will improve your cooperation. It will, but when it comes to active listening, if you are put the attention on your on the way you are like grabbing the information and then responding, the decision quality you are like making, I fully believe that increases, because you have a space to fully understand the context before making any action. And at the same time, it should, in theory at least, I know it's always like the matter of practice, reduce the time and the amount of rework that is needed. At the same time, it can also increase the alignment speed. So if, assuming everyone wants to be fully focused and actually listen what it's like discussed about, or what's the topic that we need to make a decision about, we should have fewer back and forth to get everyone on the same page. That leads to a reduced number of last minute surprises, of some unconfirmed requirements, for example, and stuff that, okay, but I thought we have discussed that. Not necessarily, because someone assumed everything is cleared and another ones also assume that everything has been said. And yeah, this is actually the next point. This is clarity of the requirements and decisions. So we not only align on something relatively quicker than before, or with the communicational listening chaos, but also we are clear on what actually we understand by A, B, C, D, F, G. And that should reduce silent misalignment. So we don't want to have people that are like, okay, let's do it, but actually they disagree internally, but they might have understood that differently. So this is also the case. If you don't try to listen actively and you don't try to grab the intent that stands behind the speaker's message, that leads very often to issues. You could like swap the columns in that case. I mentioned already code review quality. This is something related a bit to writing, but I guess there are very often discussions on the architecture when you need to introduce something new, or you need to change the framework, or you have any, I don't know, like backlog refinement on technical tasks. I guess it's easier to provide the feedback and also to receive the feedback in a more thoughtful way. At the same time, it should reduce the friction and like helps you unblock yourself for the feedback. But also about the feedback, we can like spend probably yet another meeting just talking about this topic. And last but not least, we have confidence in all of this. So if you are a good listener and you are sure what has been communicated and everyone are on the same page, the team as the whole move forward faster with less doubt in what they are doing. And decision churn is simply expensive, like changing the decision or some spending time or making them multiple times or revisiting what has been decided multiple times. So in general, you can have better decisions that are less expensive very often, which is also a matter of topic for our companies, I believe. And when like I actually was interested in this topic a couple years ago already, and I remember that when I was like doing a speech on that and sort of a discussion, I got a bunch of very nice questions that I decided to add to this presentation as a sort of a FAQ for anyone that would like to practice them like themselves, practice active listening themselves. So what if I simply tend to look away? I have some like nervous tics or whatever. Well, this is the place where eye contact builds the like connection, but also it builds with practice. This is not something that you need to like sit and stare on someone, because it would look creepy and like not super pleasant to continue the discussion. You can always share that, okay, I have some like nervous tics, I do it sometime, but you can start slowly practicing. Okay, I will try to look at the person who is speaking for about, I don't know, like 10-15 seconds, just for yourself, if you notice that you have an issue with that. What if I'm not sure how to ask the right question? Well, ask anyway. I guess that's the case, or that's the key with the curiosity. Clarifying signals, this is not something that will break the connection or disturb you with active listening. That's actually one of the techniques. It's better ask than not to ask at all, or it's better to ask with like not the ideal form of the question, instead of again not asking at all. Like asking right question, this is also something that comes with practice. The more you like train yourself with it, the more you trying to be brave enough to ask the question, the more natural it will become for you. What if I struggle with empathy and mirroring feelings? I guess that's also okay. Like we are not uh, all the same individuals. Our personalities differs. Our talents or natural skills differs as well. I guess same as previously. The more you train yourself with that, the more easier it will become. Here only I would also encourage you to build your awareness on that. I don't want to be like a psychologist or someone like that. But I guess the real change starts from understanding that, okie dokie, maybe I had some like conflict in the past, or that leads to the issue that I sometimes don't understand what's going on what someone feels. That happens. I need to be aware of that so I can train myself in other techniques of active listening if needed. What if I'm being simply attacked or like spammed by difficult or even offensive questions? Well, here this is also a kind of tricky part. First, I would encourage you not to assume anything. As I mentioned before, assume the best, not the worst. That someone's that the intention that is behind someone's questions. That might be something related to, okay, maybe this person doesn't know how to ask nicely, and this is only your interpretation of the question. It's not the intention of being offensive. Maybe the person is just like direct. You can paraphrase and you can share that, okay, I didn't like feel well with this tone or with this type of question. Again, this is a bit of building awareness of yourselves, or how do you perceive the reality, or what type of person you are. But also, if indeed there is something like offensive in that, this is a place for training yourself in assertiveness. But I guess this is also a like topic that can be a part of yet another webinar. And what if I don't fully understand the question, and what simply has been like explained? If you don't, then it's also okay. Simply ask, use paraphrase, use clarifying questions, what the person has meant by that. Try to read the body language, and it's also better to be transparent than stay in silence. Even if you don't understand, that's okay. That's the purpose of communication, right? To build this understanding. Because I fully believe that listening is a skill, not a personality trait. This is something that we can train ourselves into, not assume that everyone would do it equally like well as with other stuff. So to play a bit with active listening techniques, and to let you, or to give you a tool that you can use for practicing active listening, I prepared you a bingo. I want you to can take a screenshot, or like write it down, or prepare your own, whatever. Here are the 9 techniques, a bit like extended or examples of when someone is listening actively. And you can use this card, for example, on your next meeting, on your next refinement session for discussion, or maybe not on one-to-one, because yeah, it would be good to be a participant in the discussion. But you can try to notice each time when person that is communicating with someone else uses one of those techniques, and simply try to catch a bingo. You can also use the movie that I have shared before. I guess it should be pretty easy as a training, but worth practicing. And I guess if you start noticing active listening techniques when they are used by someone, it would be also easier for you to start doing it on your own. Okie dokie. So let's try to wrap it up. I shared with you some theory on what the active listening is. I shared the obstacles that we can have, some techniques, what to do if, and how to practice active listening. But here are the bits that I would like you to remember after this webinar. First thing first, active listening. I mentioned it a couple of times already. This is a skill. This is not a born with talent. This is something that we should train ourselves. Same as with writing, speaking in general, talking as a toddlers, and also same goes with listening. Bias matters. All we communicate, all we hear, because of the amount of biases in general, we do not hear the clear picture. We always somehow interpret the reality, and it's not avoidable. So it's better to accept than try to fight with that, because we cannot do anything with this. Simply, it's always a sort of an interpretation. The key is to have it the closest to the intent of the speaker. And better listening means better communication, means very often better decisions, and at your workplace, at your private life even, and private relationships. And very often it's less cost of some painful events. They are also happening, but I guess if we start from active listening and observing what's going on, then we can grab and take from that much more than we can just by talking, especially just by talking on ourselves, on our strong beliefs. And actually, that was pretty much all what I wanted to share for you with you today. I don't want to sell you the thought that active listening is easy, because from my perspective it sounds easy, or it looks like something easy just on paper, but I do truly believe that the more aware we are on the others, on the communication with others, the more beneficial it is for us as well. And thank you very much, and happy to answer your questions, if any.
So right now, thank you very much, actually. Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, I heard this speech for the second time, but still there are so more new facts that I learned for myself. So yeah, actually we have a lot of questions in the chat. If you can please open, and will it be more comfortable if I read them, or maybe you just can read them out so we have them on the video and then you can answer?
Yeah, I can go through them. If I'm not mistaken.
The first question would be from Roberto. It seems emotional intelligence. Yes, this one.
1 second. From Roberto, that starts from noise, a flaw in human judgment. Oh no, this is for a book.
No, it's a little bit higher. It seems that emotional intelligence and the way we handle our bias can have an impact on the whole listening process. How can we improve our emotional intelligence to become better listeners and develop a habit for listen to understand rather to respond?
Talking about emotional intelligence, from my perspective, this is something also a bit tricky. And I must say, I really like this question. It's a tricky one. There's no simple answer, I believe, in any of those cases that we have. But I would say that the key lays in the awareness simply. If you are aware of that you are struggling with some with understanding emotions, with staying closer to your emotions, I guess it's worth to try to change that. I'm not the person that is maybe fully dedicated to tell you exactly how to stay connected with your emotions, because for that, I guess the right person would be a psychologist, or you can go to some maybe I'm not sure how about coach, but psychotherapy, um, just to just a trial, just to check out what's going on in your inside. Read about this. Try different sources, whatever fits for you to best. But I guess staying also connected with people that you can like build a trust and observe and learn from each other also helps a lot with understanding your own like patterns that you are following. I'm not sure whether it like fully answers because like I wouldn't say there is a strict answer to that, how to build emotional intelligence. It's something that starts from awareness, and then you need to find a way how to be more connected, but in a way and with tooling that fits you the best. Okie dokie. I guess we can go to the next one, if that's okay. I'm just going through.
Yes,
Okay.
Yaroslav commented that LLM model prefers to be right, thinking slow and fast. Then we have also the comment about another book by Daniel Kahneman, if I'm pronouncing it correct,
Yes.
about noise and a flaw in human judgment. Another question that we have also from Roberto, as currently most of communications are through online and non-presential methods, how this may negative and positive impact on listening skills?
I guess the negative risk is the fact that we actually like people are lazy. Yeah, so it's easier very often for us to rely on writing and just like simple decisions. So I guess when it comes to listening, it's sometimes harder to understand the intention when we are in the online meetings, especially. For example, I mentioned that very often we don't have cameras on during the meetings. I think that that's a case where it's tough to build a connection with other people, because I had examples that I have been working for about like 2 years in one company fully remotely, and I have never seen a face of one guy, and I was always like a bit scared of reaching out to him, even though I was like doing my best to try to build a connection. On the other hand, I guess the positive trait of being online very often builds also awareness that when we are relying on written communication, that's also something that can be very often perceived as something harsh, something too direct, because we don't have like this body language communicating. We can use emojis, but too much of them also is something that can be tricky in understanding and perception. And I will say this is the thing that I personally developed more when it comes to writing. You need to be a bit more concrete, concise, to provide your thoughts very often in zip version when communicating, because like elaborating, it's distractive. It's hard to follow. So that's helpful, but at the same time, yeah, building this connection and this human factor, for me, I guess this is something the most Jesus, I forgot the word again. This is the precious that we should take care of, and like be even more aware of, like staying connected in real life with people, even in private life, if we don't have that at the workplace at that moment.
Okay.
Which new
Then,
question? And it scrolled down, so I need to look. If you could help me.
another question is it a good practice to use AI to support the listening process? Is there a risk on depending too much on it? Can it become more of an obstacle?
It depends how do you use AI. From my perspective, AI, this is a tool which I use a lot on a daily basis. But the key is to remember this is not like a human being. It's something easy to, for example, dive into communication with an AI. But I guess you can use it similarly, for example, to analyze the tough situation you had, or to wording that you have been used. You can try to prompt to assess how it might have been seen or thought by another person, but with a like let's say light behind your head, or some like aware button inside that it will return you what you will prompt. So for some assessment on writing, on some communication, it's nice, but I wouldn't stick too much with that. I would rather like again try to keep this human factor in this world full of AI, especially when it comes to active listening and communication.
So we can go to another one, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
What about the Yaroslav is asking, what about the phrase in discussion, truth comes to light?
Well, depending how you define the truth and what do you mean by this discussion, because we may have a discussion like, not to blind you too much. How do you define the truth? In theory, I guess it should happen. Like if the discussion is like honest, it's transparent, no one's like hides anything before others. There is something in that, but at the same time, we can have discussions that looks very productive at the first glance, but actually they are not truthful because you are not showing your own, or someone is not showing your real face. So I guess that's the matter when active listening starts. You need to like put this like mask off on how do you want to be seen, rather focus on what the person meant to, like what was meant to be said, not how, like change the perspective from, not from yourself but from to the other person. But it also like goes with the emotional intelligence and like building again awareness on yourself in general.
Okay, then another question that we have from Martin. We have the question. Thank you so much. It really helps me. I constantly have an issue and lose the focus for some seconds and get lost into the conversation. It is so uncomfortable since it's not intentional. How can I find a way to avoid this?
You can try making notes. I would, and I'm not saying about like doing the notes like from lectures or from college studies, have a 1-2 sticky notes and do like bullet points, what has been said, or some mind mapping, or words that it would be good to remember. It will help you a bit with like grabbing the core of what has been said, and afterwards you can use this as a base for asking clarifying questions, whether you have missing something or not. But I guess that may help a lot. Just nothing like too advanced. Maybe not necessarily on the phone, but I would recommend like writing down things. I do it also personally when I have some discussions or arrangements. It's good to have this like traditional way of making notes, but 1-2 sticky notes and and try it out. Maybe it would be useful for you.
Okay, the next question that we have, how to deal with colleagues who don't practice active listening, who didn't come for the webinar and they don't know how to do this now, you know?
Well, first thing first, Jesus, I wanted to make a joke, but I again forgot the word. Anyway, how to deal with colleagues who don't practice active listening. Well, you notice that. You will notice that when you are active listener, because if you are aware of what are the active listening techniques, and for example, you try to keep attention, and you will notice some patterns that, okay, this person is like, I don't know, like fidgeting, looking around, they this is a problem for them to staying focused. You can notice that and try to build a way to communicate with them. For example, maybe it's not the nicest example that I would provide, but sometimes I notice that my partner has issues with staying focused, especially if I start with too many topics at once. So what I like personally do in such cases, I try to go to them with one topic, like go to him with one topic at once, not like few different contexts from few different like things, or like life-changing decisions or whatever, one thing at a time. And this is also a nice training for myself because I need to be concrete. I very easily go into very descriptive communication, so like the quantity over quality. That was something that I was like working on, but this is the thing you can also try, like if someone is not listening actively, use the one topic at a time, but again, it's something that you need to practice and learn a bit because it may differ from person to person. So unfortunately, there is no like strict answer on that. But I guess there are like ways or finding workarounds. At least, you know, I'm a QA here, so I'm trying to like go another way if I cannot go directly somewhere. I guess we can go to the next one.
Yes. I'm getting lost. So many questions. Okay, which is harder for listening, ignoring external distractions or internal thoughts? Also on the discussed topic.
I would say also it depends on the person. For example, if I'm not interested in one topic, I'm speaking like by myself. When I'm not super familiar or interested in the topic that's being discussed, it's very hard for me to stay fully focused. For example, I don't know, I'm on a conference and there is like 4 or 5th in a row technical speech, which it's very hard to follow after a while. So it's tough. Even like doing my best, sometimes it's better not like do a break and that's it. Internal thoughts, I guess, are harder for listening in the challenging situation. So if there is some conflict, or you have some tension between your mates, your colleagues, whatever, internal thoughts are very often coming with your emotions, with some biases. You are already starting to prepare the reply. So I guess in that case, again, a bit from my perspective, it might be harder, but I would say in general as well, after like rephrasing internally this question. So I guess like when it comes to emotions, internal thoughts might be more trickier in general, more.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. AI is trained to please us, so it often agree with our mistakes. Do humans do the same when they pretend to listen actively?
I believe so. That's the silent like silent agreement. Let's say they are like just nodding because they didn't care, didn't put the attention. So sometimes it's easier just to nod and like okay, whatever. Uh, when they do pretend, it can be also like a stereotype between like wife and husbands. So it's like wife is talking a lot, like from any like sitcoms, etc., and like man is just like agreeing because he wants to have peace, and that's it. So I guess that's also an issue very often.
Yeah, I also noticed this in my life, especially with men. Sorry, guys, that you're talking and then the person agrees on everything, and you're like, are you even listening to me, or you just want to finish this conversation?" Yeah, it happens sometimes. I wouldn't lie. So, next one. What if you're afraid to ask a question in the meeting with a lot of people because you don't want to look weird or strange, or you're just shy?
You can always come back to this person later or try in anonymous way. Here, actually, we have some user, by the way. So that's a nice example. I honestly, I also don't like asking questions in public. I need to be like really sure what I want to ask about or ask for. Um, but for example, after like webinars or conferences, I rather reach out to this person in DM or somehow afterwards than ask in front of many people, which may sound weird because I feel okay with like presenting, but asking, it's like, oh Jesus. But I guess that's okay. You don't need to force yourself to ask the question in the front of the people. You can have some other techniques that you may practice. You can rephrase, paraphrase when you want to like go with the discussion, but it doesn't mean that you need to practice already in front of the like few hundreds people with asking a question, like just one step at the time.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I cannot say that I'm a very shy person, but to be honest, if there is an event or something, I would rather ask my question like separately again with the speakers, on like a speaker corner or something, but not in front of everyone. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess the last question, that why does our brain treat a different opinion, or maybe not the last question, as a personal attack rather than a chance to learn? This question is a key for active listening. I think it's like a
Honest,
philosophical question.
a bit. I guess it leads to our insecurities very often because usually when we feel attacked, I guess that that's a signal of that one of our insecurities has been like touched by particular questions or some like beliefs or some, I don't know, how to explain it, like better wording, but I guess that's the main reason. So we prefer, we feel attacked very often because it hits our ego, but also it can be our insecurities. It can be that can be a case, but this is also something to work on, but with professionals, I would say, unless you. But yeah, building awareness on that, I guess this is always a space. But I don't feel authorized, let's say, to provide here more Jesus, more thoughts, more solutions, maybe, because I guess it's very individual case. But I would say, again, from my personal experience, when I feel attacked very often, that was because of, okay, I had this imposter syndrome, or I was simply too shy, or was somewhere on the way in the beginning of this Dunning-Kruger effect. And I already thought that I'm doing a good job, so why the hell you are like attacking me by providing feedback? But maybe the form was not super, not the most fortunate way. So yeah, it's a bit like general description, but I would say insecurities. This is our like brain, our ego, and lack of self-awareness very often.
And I guess the last that we have is more like a comment, not the question, that our brain creates a model of the reality we perceive to secure our survival. Things that not align to that model are rejected as harmful, so those conflicting opinions are just the result of our brain not having a way to integrate into the existing model. There, we need to get more information in order to evaluate how to integrate that opinion. And that's actually true if we even consider like social media and, different very controversial opinion. If you have your opinion, the algorithm of your social media even will be giving you more videos, more content
Yep.
that will make sure that your opinion is correct, and you will never even have a chance to see the maybe a video or a lecture or content about the another side of the topic, so you can actually compare these thoughts. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I guess that's very true. That was the last comment in the chat. And I'm very grateful to everyone for being so active. As always, we have three gifts for the most active participants, but to be honest, I would rather maybe choose them. Are you ready to choose them now? Three people from the comments and questions, or should we do it later? Maybe I'll just send you the chat after the event.
Can I take a look a bit later? They
Yes.
are very like deep at some point, and I just need to go through them once
Yeah.
again to absorb.
So, yes, of course, it's totally understandable. So we will choose three lucky winners for the most interesting questions after. You'll receive email from me with all the information. Natalia, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. I hope that, tomorrow all of us we can practice our active listening skills and communication skills on our team meetings. I have two tomorrow. So, thank you a lot for being ready to share your experience, to give us your time, give us your knowledge, and to help us developing tech communities outside of Svitla and Svitla Smart Talk as a project. Thank you a lot. And
Thank you
I'm
as well.
grateful, and I'm very grateful to all our participants. There, I mean, some of the names I know already. It feels like some of the participants are my friends, because they are constantly coming for our Svitla Smart Talks. I appreciate it a lot. For newcomers, hi. I hope it's not the last event that you will join. And thank you for your questions. And I wish you to have, since I guess most of us are in Europe, from the comment that you sent about the countries. I wish you to have a great evening ahead and a nice rest of the week. Thank you so much, and bye bye.
Bye. Thanks a lot.